Al, SB Roz here, the coach and often quite messy whole human who writes SB's Chipped Plaster and Death and Stuff here on Substack. Um, on Monday, I wrote on SB's Chipped Plaster about, I shared a story that I find kind of embarrassing. Because last week I was in the grocery store and I saw a person in a sweatshirt that I found three parts dumb and two parts offensive is how I described it. Um, and essentially what the sweatshirt's message was I don't care about your feelings, but said in a different way. And so this morning I went, and this is a side note, but this morning I went and I tried to see if I could find it online, and I could. And it's made by a company that is veteran owned. And interestingly, its value statement is mission first, be a team, and have a great attitude to win. Which I think is such an interesting value statement given how alienating the sweatshirt is and some of the other messaging. And I think that really speaks to how we can have the same values, ideas, right? I believe in being a team. I believe in having a great attitude. Um, uh, I believe in pride and self and all of that that is also expressed on the website. But the ways that I would express that are just so completely different. And I think that's worth noticing, right? That we can have very different values expressions while having the same values, ideas that are dear to us. And I think that's where a lot of our disconnection as humans come from is um, is misunderstanding that the diversity of perspectives on any particular set of values. Um, but what I really wanted to talk about today was how it took me 3 days to figure out how I would have rather been in that situation. So, as a little recap, in case you didn't read Monday or forgotten, I stared at this person. I stared them down until they seemed uncomfortable, which is so not aligned with my values, right? Like, that was just like, that's why it's such an embarrassing story because I really didn't show up in a way that started with my values and honoring myself. And it took me until this morning when I was meditating to realize what I would have liked to have said if I had had the presence and the courage. I would have liked to have said, "Hey, would you tell me about your sweatshirt? I won't tell you my feelings about it because I can see that's not interesting to you, and that's okay with me. But I would love to hear about what this sweatshirt means to you, um, and yeah, how it resonates with you." And I would have tried to really listen, um, like wholeheartedly, not like look like I was listening, which would have been tempting, but to like really listen and see if I could understand what was underneath the decision to wear that sweatshirt, whether they bought it or not. I don't know. Of course, I don't know anything, but I would have liked to have heard more. And that's how I want to show up in the world with curiosity and with a foundational assumption that there's something to connect over, and that if I'm curious enough and open enough, um, that I can find that point of connection. This is sort of in alignment with the idea of validation, and it's a tool that I wanted to bring in today because I think it's a misunderstood and underused tool. And the misunderstanding I think most of us fall into is that we have to agree with somebody to validate them. And I think it's even more important to validate when we don't agree, which doesn't mean pretending like we do. And it's part of the misunderstanding. I don't think we have to say, like, yes, you are making a point I agree with, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think we can say, I see that what you believe is important to you. I see that your feelings are very real to you. I honor the reality of your beliefs and feelings. And I can imagine that if I started with the same foundational belief, I would have similar feelings and a similar perspective right now. So I see your whole humanness, right? Um, and I think that when we can do that, we help get out of the kind of good, bad, right, wrong um, struggle, right? And it also helps us step away from needing to be the ones being heard, which can actually facilitate our being heard. Because when we're demanding attention, what we tend to do is shut down the other person. And I would guess that you all have experience with that from the other side, that someone has been demanding attention of you and you've shut down, right? Whereas if if they could have said, hey, let's have a discussion about this. I'd like to understand where you're coming from, and I'd like to share more of where I'm coming from, that maybe you would have softened and been able to listen a little bit better, a little bit more honestly and wholeheartedly. It's not easy. None of these tools are easy, and none of them are switches. None of them just instantly make life easier. And yet, I think the effort of working with them, the effort of connecting past our own biases, I was certainly fully in touch with and holding on to with a iron grasp my biases when I passed that person in the grocery store. Um, I think when we can soften all of that, there's a hell of a lot of benefit over time. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspectives. I'd love to hear about your values in the comments below. And my friends, I wish you peace. I wish you moments of awe. And I wish you a feeling of being surrounded by love, whatever else is also in the mix.